My sister Clara always had a flair for the dramatic, but this was too much. The lawyer finished reading Dad's will, the air thick with the scent of old paper and betrayal, and then she delivered the line that changed everything. "Your share is just the antique clock." She punctuated it with a sweet, condescending smile that made my blood boil. Just the clock, the goddamn clock. For 20 years, I had poured my life into the family business, a sprawling, successful import-export operation that Dad built from the ground up. I put in the midnight hours, the grueling travel, the missed holidays. Clara, meanwhile, pursued her spiritual healing and wellness ventures, occasionally dropping by the office to sign a check and comment on the feng shui of the filing cabinets. Now Dad was gone, and according to this ridiculous document, the entirety of his multi-million-dollar estate, the company, the house, the properties, went to her. My share? A dusty, ticking relic from the 18th century that sat forgotten in the dimly lit attic. "Are you serious?" I heard my voice, tight and strained, barely recognizing the explosive fury that was building beneath the surface. I looked at Mr. Henderson, the family attorney, a man I'd known since I was a kid. He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze, which only confirmed the sickening truth. The will was legally sound, signed, sealed, and delivered. Clara just shrugged, fluttering her long, false eyelashes. "It was Dad's wish, Leo. He always said you were obsessed with time. Seems fitting. Obsessed with time? No, I was obsessed with earning my rightful place, with dedicating my life to his legacy. The injustice of it hit me like a physical blow. Rage, pure and incandescent, flooded my system. It wasn't just about the money, though. That was a monumental punch to the gut. It was about the dismissal, the humiliation, the sheer calculated cruelty of his final act. Dad and I had fought, yes. We were two stubborn bulls, always butting heads over strategy. But underneath the conflict, I thought there was respect. I thought there was love. This felt like a declaration of war from beyond the grave. I didn't say another word. If I had, I knew I would have shattered the mahogany table with my fist. I just stood up, scraping the chair back violently across the polished floor, the sound echoing the scream trapped in my throat. I grabbed the old, heavy velvet bag that contained the paperwork, crumpled it in my hand, and stormed out of the lawyer's office, leaving Clara's triumphant smirk hanging in the air like a foul odor. For the next 2 days, I was a wreck. I stayed locked in my condo, drinking bad whiskey and staring at the city lights. Every logical part of my brain screamed to call a litigation lawyer, to fight the will, but a deeper, quieter voice whispered that this was Dad's final word. Fighting it would only drag his name through the mud and hand Clara more ammunition. The whole situation felt like a puzzle with a missing piece, a riddle Dad had left unsolved just to torment me. On the 3rd day, the housekeeper delivered the relic. It arrived in a massive wooden crate. The clock itself was a French Morbieu long case clock, nearly 8 feet tall, with ornate brass detailing and a dark, moody finish. It was beautiful, admittedly, a masterpiece of craftsmanship, but it was just a clock, a $50,000 antique maybe, but not the millions I was due. As the delivery guys struggled to place it in my living room, the weight and size of it felt like Dad mocking me one last time. Later that evening, after the movers were gone, I stood before the clock, seething. I ran my hand over the cold, polished wood, feeling the intricate carvings. "What am I supposed to do with you?" I muttered, the whiskey making me philosophical and bitter. I was about to call an auction house when something caught my eye. On the brass pendulum casing, etched so finely it was almost invisible, was a small, familiar symbol, a tiny, stylized eagle. That symbol, I had seen it before, decades ago. When I was 10, Dad had taken me on a trip to Zurich. He'd gone into a massive, imposing building, telling me it was the safest place in the world. I waited in the lobby, bored, drawing in a sketchbook. On the marble floor, embedded discreetly near the entrance, was that same tiny eagle. It was the logo of a certain, highly discreet Swiss bank known globally for its absolute security and anonymous client base. A cold jolt of adrenaline shot through my chest, instantly sobering me up. Was it possible? Could this ancient, infuriating timepiece be more than just furniture? Dad was a secretive man. He trusted no one, not even his children, especially when it came to his deepest financials. He always said, "Never put all your eggs in the corporate basket, Leo. The company is what they see. The real wealth is what they don't." I ran my hands feverishly over the clock's body, pulling and pressing, looking for a hidden catch, a secret compartment. Nothing. It was a solid, uncompromising piece of cabinetry. I moved to the face. The main clock face was typical, but below it, where the seconds dial should be, was a small secondary dial marked with Roman numerals, but without a hand. It was just a decorative etching, or so it seemed. I pressed against the glass. No give. Then I noticed the inscription at the very bottom of the clock's base, almost worn away by age. It wasn't a Latin quote or a maker's mark. It was a string of letters and numbers: H8 M12 S33, H8 M12 S33, hours, minutes, seconds, the secondary dial. The main clock was ticking, a deep, resonant tick-tock filling my otherwise silent living room. I looked back at the small Roman numeral dial. I grabbed my phone, opened the flashlight, and shined it intensely at the main brass mechanism visible through the glass. The pendulum was swinging, but I was focused on the heavy, intricate winding key. I noticed that one of the square fittings for the winding key was slightly deeper than the others. Heart pounding, I grabbed the heavy brass key and inserted it into the deepest fitting. I turned it slowly, wincing as the gears groaned. As I turned, the secondary decorative dial clicked into motion. It was a combination lock, a clock-based combination lock. This was it. This was Dad's final elaborate middle finger to Clara message. He knew she would simply dismiss the clock as a worthless antique. He knew I would be the only one obsessive enough, or angry enough, to try and break the code. He gave me the key to something secret, hidden from the one person he deemed unworthy of his true fortune. The rage that had consumed me moments ago began to transform into a cold, focused determination. The code, H8 M12 S33. I meticulously set the hour hand to the 8 position on the smaller dial. Click. Then, the minute hand to Tourdid, 12. Click. Finally, the seconds hand to Courdi Twint, 33. There was a soft, mechanical thunk, a barely perceptible sound. I held my breath. The entire front panel of the clock, the heavy wooden door, popped open about half an inch. My hands were shaking as I pulled it open fully. Inside, nestled where the weights should be, was not gold or jewels, but a single, heavy metal box. It was a security box, the kind you store in a vault, and taped to the top of the box was a small, aged piece of paper with a handwritten note from my father. The note simply read, "The code is not what you think. It is who you trust." Inside, the location and the new code. "Go now, before she realizes what she threw away." I tore the tape off and pried the box open. The metal groaned in protest. Inside, there was no treasure, only a single black notebook bound in worn leather and a keycard. The keycard was the final piece of the puzzle. The Swiss bank logo, the stylized eagle, emblazoned clearly on the magnetic strip. The antique clock held the code to a Swiss bank account, and the true value of my inheritance was finally revealed. All the betrayal, all the anger, it suddenly found a new, terrifying focus: the race to the fortune. I stared at the black notebook and the keycard, my heart hammering against my ribs. The adrenaline was a fierce, metallic taste in my mouth, burning away the last of the whiskey-induced haze. My sister, Clara, the great spiritual healer, thought she'd gotten the empire. What she actually got was a legal headache, a few properties, and a company I was now mentally liquidating, while I had just found the silent key to Dad's real, untouchable fortune. The injustice was now a victory. The rage morphed into a cold, predatory focus. The keycard was thick, heavier than a standard credit card, with the embossed logo of the eagle, Banque de l'Aigle. I hadn't heard that name in years, not since that Zurich trip. It wasn't a place for transactions. It was a vault for secrets. I ran my thumb over the smooth plastic, feeling the pull of the old world of discreet wealth and ironclad silence. This wasn't an ATM card. This was a personal access key. I turned my attention to the notebook. It was vintage, maybe from the 1980s, the leather soft and worn at the edges. Tucked inside the front cover was a photo. A young dad, leaning against a railing overlooking a vast Swiss lake, smiling, his eyes holding a secret even then. The same secretive energy I saw in his note. The code is not what you think. It is who you trust. I flipped it open. It wasn't an account book. It was a dense, meticulously kept journal spanning 20 years. But the entries weren't about business. They were personal. Dates, locations, single names, and often a short, cryptic phrase. Dec 5, 1995, Vienna. Checkmate by the Danube. L is too reckless. July 14, 2003, Monaco. The Empress is watching. The price of silence. Oki 21, 2012. The Vineyard. His favorite vintage. Remember what he taught you. It was a code, all right, but not a financial one. It was a cipher built on memories, on our shared and unshared history. The new code and the location weren't a simple string of numbers. They were buried in the emotional landscape of my father's life. And the "who you trust" line suddenly felt heavier. Did he trust me? Or did he mean a specific person referenced in the entries? The clock, now open and exposed, seemed to tick louder, hurrying me. I had to move, and fast. Clara was already celebrating. I pulled out my phone to check my corporate accounts, to see if I could at least pull some quick cash for the trip. But before the bank app even loaded, a notification flashed. Access restricted. Contact administration. Clara. The lawyer's office was only 3 days ago, but she hadn't wasted a second. She had probably already taken control of the business, freezing my access, shutting me out of the very fortune I had helped build. The realization didn't spur new anger. It solidified my mission. She was calculating, and she was moving. I had to be faster, quieter, and more ruthless. This wasn't a game of inheritance anymore. It was a heist. I flipped through the journal again, frantically searching for an entry that stood out, one that screamed final location. I bypassed the entries with names I didn't recognize, focusing on the ones that mentioned me, or locations we had visited together. The entries were sparse, separated by months or even years. Then I found it, near the back, dated just 6 weeks before his passing. October 15th, 2025, Zid. The first rule is the last rule. The eagle never flies alone. He will understand the weight of the silver. Z. Zurich. But the new code? The first rule is the last rule. What was the first rule? Dad had hundreds of rules, mostly about business ethics and trust. I remembered one he used to hammer home when I was just starting out, one that often irritated me. Never trust the face value of a contract. Always check the counterparty's signet. Another, in every great deception, the truth is hidden in plain sight, on the 4th line. I looked back at the inscription on the clock's base. H8M12 S33. The original code was on the 3rd line. The first rule, the last rule. The 4th line. I turned back to the note Dad had taped to the vault box, the one that said, "The code is not what you think." There were 4 lines of text in his handwriting. The code is not what you think. It is who you trust. Inside, the location and the new code. Go now, before she realizes what she threw away. The 4th line. Go now, before she realizes what she threw away. But that wasn't a code, was it? It was a warning. I was chasing shadows, getting lost in Dad's love for misdirection. I needed to simplify. The first rule is the last rule. The clock. The first key was the hour, 8. The next was the minute, 12. I looked at the date of the final entry, October 15th, 2025. This was the date Dad had formalized, the transfer of whatever this fortune was. It was a date. Dates were codes. The numbers, 10, October, 15, day, 2025, year. Too long. But what if the first rule was simply the combination mechanism itself? HMS. Hour, minute, second. I glanced at the notebook entry again. You will understand the weight of the silver. Silver. The pendulum inside the clock was silver-plated. Wait, I hadn't paid attention to the winding key. I rushed back to the long case clock. I pulled the heavy brass key out of the mechanism. It wasn't a single key. It was a set of 3 keys on a ring, but I had only used one. The other 2 were smaller. One was copper, one was silver. The silver key. I took the silver key and held it up to the clock face. The secondary dial, the one I had just used for the combination, had 3 small, recessed keyholes hidden behind the brass filigree. I had been looking for a number, but the new code wasn't a number. It was a sequence of metals. The new location wasn't in the notebook. The new location was Banque de l'Aigle, the Swiss bank. The note from Dad said, inside, the location and the new code. The keycard is the location. The new code must be a phrase or a number that unlocks the main account once the keycard is used. I slammed the notebook shut, my eyes fixed on the keycard and the final cryptic date. I didn't have time to fully decipher the whole journal. I had to assume the core truth. My father wanted me to have it, and he left a breadcrumb trail that only my memory and my anger would allow me to follow. I booked the first flight to Zurich, a direct, red-eye departure. I had less than 6 hours. I couldn't risk leaving the clock. Clara might realize the box was gone, and I definitely couldn't risk leaving the notebook. It was the Rosetta Stone to my future. I carefully removed the clock's internal mechanism, the heavy metal lockbox and the pendulum weights, placing them in a small, dense, lead-lined briefcase I used for international business trips. The notebook was tucked into the inner pocket of my jacket. I left the empty clock shell where it was, a massive, ticking decoy. Before I left, I looked at the dark wood of the empty case one last time. She realizes what she threw away, I whispered, the words no longer a warning, but a promise of retribution. The betrayal felt less personal now. It felt like a tactical error on her part and a brilliant, high-stakes game set up by my father. I was already at the airport an hour later, waiting for the gate to open. The weight of the silver key, a constant pressure in my pocket, and the thought of Clara's inevitable discovery fueling my every heartbeat. I was a man on the run, racing a deadline I didn't fully understand toward a fortune I might not be able to claim. The only thing I knew for sure was that the finish line was in Zurich. And the closer I got, the more I was certain I wasn't just claiming an inheritance. I was stepping into a dangerous, family-sized secret. The flight to Zurich was excruciating. Every minute felt like an hour, and every stranger who looked my way became a potential agent of Clara. Or worse, someone connected to the dangerous family-sized secret Dad had alluded to. I spent the entire 10 hours poring over the black notebook, trying to establish a pattern in the chaos of dates and cryptic references. I needed the final, definitive code or location, not just a feeling. The entry from October 15, 2025 kept flashing in my mind. Zed, the first rule is the last rule. The eagle never flies alone. He will understand the weight of the silver. I had solved the silver part, the key. But what about the eagle never flies alone? The bank's logo was an eagle. This suggested a partner, a joint account, or perhaps a subsidiary vault. But who? I went back to the old photo tucked in the front cover. Young Dad, standing by the lake. Behind him, slightly out of focus, was another person. A woman with short, dark hair, laughing, her arm around his waist. Not Mom. Mom had died 10 years ago, and I knew every photo of her. This woman was a stranger. I checked the dates on the surrounding pages, trying to connect her to a time and place. One entry, dated July 14, 2003, read, Monaco, the Empress is watching, the price of silence. I remembered Dad taking a solo trip to Monaco that summer, saying it was for an obscure shipping contract. The Empress, was that a code name, or her title? The implications were dizzying. Dad, a straight-laced businessman, living a double life? Keeping a secondary family or a highly confidential partner hidden, even from the will? This wasn't just a tax dodge. It was a full-blown secret life that now directly impacted my inheritance. I landed in Zurich Kloten Airport and immediately felt the sharp, cold efficiency of Switzerland. I rented a dark sedan and drove straight into the city, keeping the lead-lined briefcase secured under the passenger seat. My first priority wasn't the bank. It was reconnaissance. I had to know the landscape. Banque de l'Aigle wasn't listed on any public map or financial index. It was one of those places you had to know existed. However, I remembered the location from 30 years ago. An unassuming, monolithic gray building nestled on a narrow side street near the Bahnhofstrasse. The kind of place that hides behind bland architecture. I drove past the location twice. It looked exactly as I remembered. No signage, just heavy granite and thick, tinted windows. I parked a few blocks away and settled in to observe, sipping on terrible airport coffee. Within an hour, I noticed two things that amplified my paranoia. First, the security. Not standard guards, but a rotation of 3 different men in immaculate dark suits, each with an earpiece, their eyes constantly scanning the street. They didn't stand still. They moved in a slow, calculated orbit. They were professionals. Second, a black Mercedes sedan with tinted windows was parked across the street, idling for an unnaturally long time. As I watched, the passenger door cracked open, and a flicker of movement caught my eye. A woman. Short, dark hair. She pulled the door shut quickly, but the glimpse was enough. It was the woman from the photo, the Empress, the potential partner or the other recipient, and she was already here. My internal clock was ticking faster than the antique one back home. Clara hadn't discovered the secret, but this other woman was in play. If she had a similar key or knowledge, she could access the fortune before I even stepped through the door. The race was now a 3-way high-stakes sprint. I pulled out the keycard. I had to go in blind, trusting Dad's note that this card provided the location, and the notebook provided the new code. I strapped the briefcase across my chest beneath my jacket and started walking. When I reached the heavy granite doors, one of the suited men materialized instantly. He didn't speak. He just held out his hand. I hesitated, then presented the keycard. He didn't swipe it. He looked at the stylized eagle logo, then at my face, a slow, methodical appraisal. His eyes were cold, professional, and gave nothing away. He nodded once and stepped aside, sliding a hidden metallic panel in the door open. The lobby was not what I expected. Instead of marble and crystal, it was concrete and steel, minimalist and cold, like an expensive bunker. A single desk sat in the center, manned by a severe woman who looked up only when the door hissed shut behind me. "Your business, sir?" she asked in flawless, clipped English. "I need to access a private client vault," I said, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. I slid the keycard across the polished steel desk. She took the card and examined it, then slowly typed something into her keyboard. Her brow furrowed. "Mr. My last name. You have been granted access. However, this is an entry key. It does not contain the activation code for the vault itself. You are aware of the protocol?" I wasn't, but I nodded curtly. "Of course. The vault is level 4. The elevator code is the activation key. The elevator code is the activation key." That was the new code I needed. It wasn't a banking pin, but a physical code to open the vault door on the 4th floor. I looked at the elevator doors. A keypad was installed beside them. My mind raced back to the notebook, to the cryptic entry. The first rule is the last rule. The first rule, H8, M12, S33, a 3-number sequence. The last rule, the key was a warning, "Go now," before she realizes what she threw away. I focused on the first rule. Dad's biggest rule in life was never rely on a single source of truth. What if the new code was a combination of his rule and the clock's sequence? A 4-digit code was standard. I needed to derive one from the 2 pieces of information I had. The silver key, the one I had used to open the clock, had an inscription on its shaft, too tiny to read without a magnifying glass. I pulled it out and squinted. There it was. 719. 3 numbers. Where did the 4th come from? I went back to the original combination, 8, 12, 33. Too many digits. I looked at the woman at the desk. She was watching me, her eyes devoid of judgment, but full of expectation. I could feel the pressure of the waiting woman in the black sedan outside, the Empress, knowing she might walk in any moment. I thought about the date again. October 15th, 2025, 10/15/2025. The weight of the silver. The silver key was 719. The elevator keypad had number 0.9. I had to risk it. I combined the 3-digit number from the silver key, 719, with the only piece of numerical information Dad had emphasized. The number 8, the hour from the clock, his favorite number, always representing infinity in his superstitious mind. I moved to the keypad and took a deep breath. I pressed 7, 1, 9, 8. A small green light flashed on the elevator panel. The doors slid silently open. I stepped inside, my briefcase feeling heavy and vital. As the doors began to close, I looked back at the woman at the desk. She gave a faint, knowing nod. My father had trusted the right person. I was in. Now, I just had to survive level 4. The elevator ride was silent, smooth, and unnervingly slow. Every centimeter the car ascended felt like a step deeper into my father's meticulously constructed shadow world. The successful entry with 7198 confirmed my hypothesis. The code was a synthesis of personal history, Dad's favorite number 8, and a physical clue, the silver keys inscription 719. He built this whole vault access system around the things Clara would never notice, and only I, driven by a fury bordering on obsession, would bother to investigate. The lift stopped with a whisper on level 4. The doors opened onto a space that looked nothing like a bank vault. It was a single, richly paneled hallway, lit by recessed floor lights that cast long, dramatic shadows. At the end of the hall stood a single massive door, not stainless steel, but bronze, intricately carved with mythical figures, including a triumphant, soaring eagle. This was clearly the main vault entrance, and beside it, another keypad, far more complex and imposing than the one in the lobby. I approached the door, the cold bronze radiating an ancient, unyielding power. Below the keypad, a small screen blinked, requesting the final 6-digit code and a biometric scan. This was the true gate. I pulled out the black notebook, my hands slightly damp with perspiration. This time, I knew the answer had to be in the written words, not just the physical objects. The final entry, October 15th, 2025, Z. The first rule is the last rule. The eagle never flies alone. He will understand the weight of the silver. I had disregarded the second half of the phrase. The eagle never flies alone. This meant a partner, someone necessary for final access. The woman in the photo, the Empress, was likely the joint account holder. If that was the case, Dad wouldn't leave a simple shared code. He would require 2 unique factors. I flipped back to the July 14, 2003 entry. Monaco. The Empress is watching. The price of silence. The price of silence. Silence. A word that held a numerical value in Dad's strange logic. The word had 6 letters, matching the 6-digit requirement. But I needed numbers. I looked at the dates again. Final entry, 10/15/2025. The Empress entry, 07/14/2003. I remembered something Dad taught me about ciphers years ago. When the sequence is too long, look for the sum of the digits. Final entry sum, 1.1/16. Empress entry sum, 1/17. Not a 6-digit code. Frustration began to claw at my focused calm. I looked down at the briefcase containing the keycard. The card was my access, but what if the keycard itself contained the necessary code hidden in its magnetic strip? No, the receptionist explicitly said the elevator code was the activation key. I returned to the concept of shared access. If the eagle never flies alone, maybe the code was a combination of my inheritance, the number 8, and her defining feature, the Empress. The Empress card in tarot is the number 3. What if the code was a mix of the 2 defining traits in his entries? 7198, my access, and 3, her number. Too many digits. I ran my fingers over the intricately carved bronze door, searching for any clue, any hidden inscription. My gaze fell on the eagle. It was clutching something in its talons, a small scroll. On the scroll, etched into the bronze, was a perfect 6-digit number, 540913. The truth is hidden in plain sight, on the 4th line. This wasn't the 4th line of a note. It was the 4th significant piece of information I had encountered, embedded right on the door. It was the anti-code, the obvious key that only someone paranoid enough to look for a hidden clue would find. I typed the numbers into the keypad, 540913. The screen flashed, accepted, but a second message appeared, secondary biometric scan required, partner access denied. My blood ran cold. The code worked, but the door wouldn't open without the second person, the Empress. Dad had truly ensured the eagle never flies alone. He didn't want the fortune to go to one person, especially not through a legal battle. He wanted two people, two sides of his life, to meet and cooperate. I felt a surge of genuine panic. I was in a high-security vault lobby in Zurich. The clock was ticking, and the woman who held the second key was sitting outside in a black Mercedes. I couldn't just walk out and ask her to open the vault. She would likely kill me and take the fortune herself. I looked at the bronze door and then at the keypad. The biometric scanner was just a small pad where the partner was supposed to place their thumb. But Dad had anticipated everything. He built a system that required cooperation, but he wouldn't leave me stranded. I returned to the notebook, frantically searching for an emergency bypass, a secondary key, or a name. My eyes locked onto the first entry I had ever seen that mentioned me. Deck 5, 1995, Vienna. Checkmate by the Danube. L is too reckless. L, Leo. Me, Vienna. Checkmate, chess. I remembered Dad teaching me chess. He had a specific maneuver he called the self-sacrifice checkmate. It involved placing a piece in danger to open up a crucial line of attack. I looked at the biometric scanner. I had to sacrifice something to open the line. I rushed back to the briefcase, pulled out the keycard, and noticed a tiny, almost invisible chip at the very corner of the card. A miniature memory unit. The keycard was the access, but the chip was the key to the biometric lock. Dad wasn't relying on a second person. He was relying on a piece of technology that mimicked that person's key. The weight of the silver wasn't just the key. It was the lead lining in the briefcase meant to protect the card's chip from scanners. I took a small, sharp key I used to open my mail and carefully, with shaking hands, began to scrape the tiny chip away from the plastic keycard. If I ruined it, I was done. This was the reckless move he described, the self-sacrifice. I finally managed to pry the almost microscopic chip free. It was less than a millimeter square. I held it in my fingers and placed it directly over the biometric scanner. The small screen flashed green. Partner biometric access granted. The massive bronze door sighed, the heavy bolts retracting with a sound like grinding thunder. The air inside the vault shifted, dusty, cold, and smelling intensely of old money and secrets. I stood facing the darkness of the vault, the briefcase clutched tight, ready to step into the life Dad had truly intended for me, knowing I had just bypassed the most secure banking system in the world. But as I stepped through the massive door, a figure detached itself from the shadows inside. It wasn't the Empress. It was a man, large and menacing, holding a silenced weapon aimed directly at my chest. "Took you long enough, Leo," the man growled. "She sent me to wait." The man stepped fully into the light, and my heart dropped into my stomach. It wasn't just a man, it was Victor, Clara's head of security at the family firm. A hulking ex-military brute with a reputation for cleaning up messes the legal department couldn't handle. The weapon in his hand was undeniably real, and his smile was a cold, satisfied crescent. He wasn't waiting for the Empress, he was waiting for me. "Victor," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, projecting calm while every nerve ending screamed panic. "What the hell are you doing here? Did Clara send you?" He chuckled, a gravelly sound that echoed in the silent vault. "Clara? Bless her heart, she couldn't track a paperclip, Leo. No, she just gave me an incentive, a rather large one. Turns out your antique clock wasn't the only piece of jewelry she overlooked." He gestured with the weapon towards the wall. Behind him, resting on a pedestal, was a small, ornate silver locket. It was Mom's. She had given it to me when I was a teenager, but I had lost it years ago. I remember Dad finding it and keeping it. It had been missing from his possessions after he died. "This little thing," Victor continued, admiring the locket. It was nestled deep in the safe deposit box at the corporate headquarters, along with a copy of the will, an early draft, one that specified the clock was the key to his unaccounted assets. Clara's lawyer dismissed it as an outdated draft. I didn't. I saw the eagle logo etched inside the locket. I knew if the clock was the key, the locket was the tracker. He hadn't been following me. He had been following the logic of my father's paranoia, just a step behind. He knew I was coming to Zurich because he had the same clues, just from a different source Clara had carelessly ignored. Victor had used the locket's data, likely an old GPS chip Dad had hidden inside, to pinpoint this vault. Or maybe he simply monitored my travel based on the information from the early draft of the will. Either way, He had beaten me to the punch. "So you're trying to extort Clara?" I countered, buying time, my eyes constantly searching the shadows of the vault for an exit or a weapon. "Extort? No, Leo. I'm cashing in. The vault," he emphasized the word. "It's already open. I've been inside. It contains more than just cash. It contains leverage, files, names, enough to dismantle half the trade agreements your father signed in the last decade. Enough to make governments very nervous. I can sell this information to the highest bidder, or I can just take the physical wealth. Either way, I don't need you." The vault, which I expected to be filled with gold, was actually a large, climate-controlled room. It wasn't a conventional bank safe. It was Dad's private archive. Rows upon rows of heavy, fireproof drawers lined the walls. In the center, under the only spotlight, sat a single plain wooden box. Victor smirked. "I thought you'd be interested in this. Took me 3 hours to crack the drawer's codes, but this box? This was unlocked. It's the grand prize." He gestured for me to approach, his weapon steady. I moved slowly, making sure he couldn't grab the briefcase. "You've got the keycard access," Victor said, nodding toward the briefcase. I figured out the external lock, but I couldn't crack the full network access inside. "You're going to open this box and transfer the digital assets before I shoot you." That was Dad's final layer of security, wasn't it? Something only the rightful heir could bypass. I finally saw the box clearly. It was a simple, handcrafted mahogany chest, no lock visible. It looked like something Dad would use to store memorabilia. "I don't know any digital access code for a mahogany box," I lied, trying to look confused. "Don't play games, Leo. The new code, the sequence you used to get in here, that was the code to the vault door. The next sequence, the final sequence, is the code to the wealth. The first rule is the last rule. Now open it." I was trapped. I had the briefcase containing the keycard chip, which I knew was the digital key for the vault's main system, not this wooden box. But Victor had control. I looked down at the wooden box, running my hand over the smooth, unassuming lid. The weight of the silver key. I had used it to get the number 717. What if the last code was something physical, something Dad knew I would grab without thinking? I slid the silver key out of my pocket. It was the only thing I had left that Victor hadn't seen used. As I did, Victor's eyes widened, recognizing the silver artifact. "The key!" he roared, lunging forward, his weapon momentarily dropping slightly as he reached for the key. In that split second, the training from my youth, self-defense classes Dad insisted on, kicked in. I didn't try to fight him. I threw the heavy, lead-lined briefcase directly at his weapon hand, using the momentum of the object rather than my strength. The briefcase collided with his forearm with a sickening crunch. The weapon clattered loudly against the bronze floor and slid into the darkness. Victor let out a grunt of pain and staggered back, momentarily stunned. This was my chance. I lunged at the box. I didn't try to open it. I flipped it over, revealing the underside. Taped there, with heavy-duty masking tape, was a small, high-tech satellite phone and a single final piece of paper. I tore the paper off the bottom. It was a handwritten note, Dad's familiar scrawl. "Don't let them catch you with the hardware. You don't need the money, you need the call. The new code is the voice. Dial the numbers in the lock, now." Victor was recovering, his face contorted in pain and rage, scrambling for his weapon. I ignored him. I looked back at the bronze vault door keypad, the one I had just used. Dad's final brilliant trick. The numbers on the keypad were also a phone number. I grabbed the satellite phone, quickly punched in the 6 digits I used to open the door, 540913, and hit call. The line connected instantly. A voice, calm and professional, answered in German. "Banque de l'Aigle, Vault Security, state your purpose." I didn't speak German, but I spoke the only thing that mattered. I looked at Victor, now reaching for the weapon, and roared the phrase my father used whenever he needed an immediate, unscheduled shutdown of any asset. "Checkmate by the Danube!" A screeching siren erupted instantly inside the vault, deafening and immediate. The bronze door slammed shut with a final, terrifying boom, plunging the room into darkness. I heard Victor scream a split second before the steel closed, trapping him in the archive. I had sacrificed the money, the physical vault, to save my life. I was alone, in the darkness of the hall, the satellite phone still pressed to my ear, the vault locked, and the fate of Dad's actual fortune now hanging on the next block. The silence after the siren's immediate cutoff was absolute, broken only by my ragged breathing and the faint, high-pitched ringing in my ears. The bronze vault door, now sealed with Victor trapped inside, was a dark, unmoving monolith. I was safe for the moment, but also stuck. I had sacrificed the tangible fortune, the archives, the documents, whatever wealth Victor claimed was inside, to activate Dad's ultimate security protocol. The satellite phone was still warm against my ear. A calm voice came through, now in perfect English. "Mr. My last name." The verbal code Checkmate by the Danube confirms an extreme security breach. All external and internal surveillance of Level 4 is now disabled, and the vault is in lockdown. We are proceeding with the next phase of the protocol. Please state your command. I realized the 6-digit number I used on the exterior keypad was not just a lock code. It was a dedicated line to the bank's deep security system. The vault didn't contain the treasure. It contained the evidence. Evidence Dad didn't want anyone, not even me, to access directly, only to destroy it if compromised. "What is the next phase?" I demanded, my voice raw. "The immediate and irrevocable transfer of all assets tied to the Eagle account to the designated contingency location," the voice stated matter-of-factly. "The transfer is pending your final authorization code, Mr. My last name. Please provide the 6-digit contingency code." A 6-digit code, the final piece of the puzzle. I had used all the clues, the clock, the silver key, the phone number, 540913, and the passphrase, "Checkmate by the Danube." What was left? I thought back to the very first entry in the black notebook, the one that mentioned me. Dec 5, 1995, Vienna. Checkmate by the Danube. L is too reckless. Vienna. December 5th, 1995. My mind zeroed in on the numbers in that date. 12:05:95. It was the first rule, the foundation of the sequence, but it was only 4 digits, 12:05:95 or 12:05. It needed to be 6. I remembered the key person in the whole charade, the one Dad used to enforce the never fly alone rule, the Empress. Her number in the tarot was 3. The key was always the synthesis of the clues, the first rule, the last rule, the first date, the last code. I combined the numerical core of the first entry, 12:05:95, with the symbol that represented the partner Dad forced me to cooperate with. I put the 3 at the beginning and the end, framing the numbers of my past. I took a gamble, the most reckless move of all. I spoke the final code into the satellite phone. 3120553. The line went silent for 3 excruciating seconds. Then the calm voice returned. "Contingency code accepted. The transfer is completed. All liquid assets and equities from the Eagle account have been moved to the primary holding account, accessible via the keycard you possess. The account has been renamed and sealed. The original account is now empty. Protocol complete, Mr. My last name." The line is terminating. The phone went dead. I slowly lowered it, the weight of the silver key still pressing into my palm. I had done it. I didn't get the physical money, but I got the true fortune. I rushed back to the elevator, the biometric lock system now completely offline due to the emergency shutdown. I pressed the lobby button. As the lift descended, I pulled out the keycard, my original inheritance, and looked at the faint eagle logo, which now felt less like a symbol of betrayal and more like a sign of my father's twisted love. The betrayal was Clara's. The game was Dad's. The victory was mine. I stepped out into the lobby. The stern receptionist looked up, the corner of her mouth twitching in what might have been a tiny, approving smile. The uniformed security guard was gone. The black Mercedes was gone. The Empress was gone. I walked out onto the street and hailed a cab to the airport, knowing I had to get out of Zurich immediately. I didn't care about the empty vault or Victor, who was now dealing with the fallout of Dad's self-destruct protocol. I only cared about the keycard now sitting in my wallet, linked to a massive, sealed account I had just activated. As the plane took off and broke through the clouds, heading back toward the anonymity of the American sky, I finally pulled out my laptop and inserted the keycard into its reader. The screen flashed. Account L, my last name. Balance 1.2 billion. The rage was completely gone, replaced by a cold, thrilling satisfaction. Clara inherited the public company and the legal headaches. I had inherited the true wealth, the secret empire, and the ultimate vindication. 2 days later, back in my condo, I received a frantic call from Clara. "Leo, the antique clock, it's gone, and the lawyer says the company funds are being audited. What did you do?" I looked at the empty space where the long case clock once stood. The empty, ticking decoy. "Your share was just the antique clock, Clara," I said, repeating her exact words. But this time, the condescension was mine. And my share? It was everything else. I hung up the phone, leaned back, and finally, truly smiled. The game was over, and the son who was too reckless, the one Dad supposedly distrusted, had won. The code wasn't who I thought I trusted. The code was my own stubborn refusal to quit.